Welcome to another episode of Founder Unboxed, where we go beyond balance sheets and boardrooms to explore the humanness of entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Kabir Lal. Today, I'm joined by Alpita Shah, a mental health counselor, serial entrepreneur, and trailblazer with 2 decades of experience across healthcare and technology. Alpita co-founded and scaled 2 pioneering ventures in telemedicine and mental health tech, serving more than 50 global clients before successfully exiting. Her story is a rare blend of science, business, and heart. Born in the US and raised in India, Alpita pursued her MBA in healthcare at the University of West Florida and sharpened her entrepreneurial edge at the Harvard Extension School. Beyond counseling sessions and building startups, Alpita has always carried with her the discipline of a childhood athlete, excelling at swimming, badminton, and inter-school competitions, a foundation that has shaped her resilience and grit. Today, she channels that same spirit into mental health advocacy, helping individuals and institutions build healthier, stronger emotional life. Let's unbox Alpita. Welcome, Alpita. Welcome to our program.
Thank you so much, Kabir. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time and flying in from Bombay. That's been great.
Yes, absolutely. It's been great. I love coming to Delhi all the time. And
I know you mentioned Chart is a favorite of yours.
yes, we went to, in the city of Delhi, it was street side and
Wow.
it was still most amazing chart that I've had.
I hope the
time
stomach stays okay.
Yes,
So we'll get to know once you reach back home.
absolutely.
So have you always loved Chart, or was it a recent addition to your cuisine love?
No, I actually, we are Gujaratis, so, we really like food and sweetness.
Khatta
and
meetha,
Khatta meetha. So
Wonderful.
I think, I really like chaat right from the onset, ever since I've known chaat.
So tell me what you were as a kid. I mean, did you love Chart then, and what did you love at that time, and how did you grow up as a kid?
So as a kid, I was like more very good for the teachers to have because, I would always be listening to them, answering, doing the homework. And I had severe asthma as growing up. So, I used to be taking heavy medicines and not able to do as much as I would have liked to. So that was a limiting factor.
Okay, and but you were also a lot into sports and other activities while growing up.
Yeah. So actually, during those times, the availability of medicines was very limited. They would give me steroid injections as to curtail my asthma.
Achha.
But the only method that really helped was, doing swimming and doing yoga. So, that really actually effectively helped in the long run. So.
And you were born in the United States?
Yeah, I was born in the United States.
Okay.
So when I shifted back, then I had chronic asthma, and to overcome that, I guess I got into sports.
Okay.
And
so sports was in India.
Sports was in India, yeah.
Okay.
Sports.
Excellent. Now, what were your influences while growing up? Was it family or maybe teachers? Who influenced you?
So I would say mainly my parents did influence. My dad's a neuroradiologist doctor. He had a journey where he moved from Uganda to Canada to US to make it to the American dream.
Wonderful.
And then my mom, she also transferred her master's to the US, and she went to Yale for doing master's in dietetics.
Mm-hmm.
So they definitely had their ups and downs. So those things made them my role model, where it was always like there is an opportunity for growth. There's always opportunity to problem solve. And I think that was really
must have been an interesting childhood to see different cultures and different beliefs at such a young age. Did you realize that you were born in a different country and then you moved, or was it okay? It's just
I
natural.
was only 2, so
Two,
when I
okay.
moved
So
back,
US का तो आपको कुछ याद नहीं होगा.
not much.
At least from that part of the.
No, I don't remember. But I remember there was this huge house we had in Cleveland, Ohio before we moved back. That's the only thing that I remember. And, I would go with my mom grocery shopping.
Okay. Oh, you have flashes of memory from
Yeah,
that
just
time.
like a
Excellent.
little here and there. But yeah, that's.
Wonderful. So what made you come back was the family moving back, or?
So my dad wanted to bring CT scan to India. He's a
Acha.
pioneer in radiology in that sense. So he brought the know-how, the type of a machine, just about everything. He brought to Nanavati Hospital. He was the head of the department, and he decided to just move back, even to raise kids. So it was a combination of where it's a sense of where we belong. So move back. Otherwise, he was the top 5 radiologist in the US at that time.
Wonderful. So you didn't really sense any cross-cultural upbringing, since the influence in the US was kind of limited. Is that correct? Or their sensitivity, because they worked and studied in the US, how did they bring that into India? Your parents' sensitivity?
My parents. So my mom is a dietitian by profession. So we used to always be looking at healthy food right from childhood. Plus, I feel the open-mindedness, because there wasn't a time that my mom or dad ever said that don't get into sports or don't do this, because you're going to get married and have kids, and you're going to run a family. So never was that brought up. Where I saw my friends, peers at a very young age, they were told, oh, my mom says, what's the point of doing this, because eventually you will.
No, I know that used to be a belief, and maybe it still is with a lot of parents. के या तो sports करो या ये करो, sports में कोई future नहीं है, kind of a thing.
Yeah, so otherwise you need to sing and dance, do the more traditional, what your in-laws will like.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. So did that open-mindedness of approach, or liberal approach to doing things and having experiences, did that affect you as a entrepreneur in any way, or as a parent in any way?
So I think that open-mindedness did help in a way that I saw at a very young age my dad building his own team, his own people, and getting along with people. People in India in those times worked very, very differently with limited US exposure.
Yeah.
So I would see him build his team, ability to listen, ability to write well, that reporting style which was there. So, my dad used to have the Home Minister, Nita Ambani, all of them come visit him and do his sonography, ultrasound, CT scan. And even Amitabh Bachchan, I have a picture which I had. Yeah, I was only 7, he saw me, and so it was interesting to see that journey at that point,
Now, of course, see, you've seen your father as a professional in terms of a specialist and a doctor, but he was not a business person, really. He was, still focused more on his, medicine and things like that.
Caregiving, yeah.
Caregiving. Now, when did you figure out that, okay, firstly, I don't want to go into practicing medicine, but I want to start my company, which may eventually do the same thing in terms of healthcare, but I want to approach it from a different angle?
So right after 12th, when we're waiting for all these admissions to get done, for physiotherapy and other medical colleges, I applied for medical college. I did it for 1 year, and then I decided that, I really enjoy having a life.
I know, yes. That's
So
a
I was like, the
consideration.
5 years of my college, I want to,
minimum of 5 years.
Yeah, minimum of 5 years. I want to still enjoy. I don't want to constantly be studying. So I decided I'll do bachelor's in life science and biochemistry. And then I went to the US after that, because my parents wanted me to finish my bachelor's, then go to the US after that. So right after my 3rd year, I go visit my sister. She's in Boston, and then
she's elder to you?
She's elder than me.
Okay. She was already there for her master's?
She was there she got married and she shifted there.
Okay.
And after that, there was no looking back. I continued, I applied to colleges. But my parents had this time where they couldn't support me in my education.
Okay.
So I started finding ways on how to get loans from banks and
Oh,
how
wonderful.
to pay.
New country, and you had to figure it out yourself, I guess.
Yeah, new country. It was interesting. I was working at CVS Pharmacy as a pharmacy technician for a while, so I had like a lot of odd jobs.
Okay.
And then plus I would fund my education, study in the evenings, and yeah.
Wow, that must have been quite an interesting time for you. What were your biggest learnings from that?
So I thought that so it was very interesting that I would go to the bank and I would tell the bank teller that this is how you have to actually wire funds,
Oh,
and she
interesting.
would be like, "Oh, you know it better than me, and you've never done it before." Like there's
Wonderful.
an
So you did your
intermediary.
research before you went there.
Yeah, I did a lot of research, a lot of reading, and then those times the internet wasn't that advanced, so I would go refer books, I would go to the library, go figure out, and since I was on a loan, I would not buy all the books in college.
Ah,
I would probably take a friend's and get it photocopied and
okay.
read it.
So
Study.
how did this, the fact that your father was not a business person, how did it affect your concept of risk, of security, and ambition? How did it really affect that?
It didn't. So after I did my MBA, I realized, that Richard Branson and Warren Buffett were my I always looked up to. And even today, when you see Richard Branson's posts, he talks about get the work first and then go figure how
Figure
to
it
do
out.
it.
Yeah, correct. Interesting.
So I think his style of innovation and his style of really, I really enjoyed looking at his passion in terms of business. And then Warren Buffett, of course, you've seen how he has established Berkshire. He's done investments and how he's managed. So combining all of that, I thought I really had a passion for doing business in terms of just the opportunity out there to take up a challenge and then solve that unmet need. And that's how I.
So post MBA, you started off working with someone, or did you straight away jump into setting up your own company?
So I was working with Frost Sullivan. I was doing pharma research there, writing papers and doing a lot of fun stuff like diabetes management. Then I moved to a company called KCI, which is a medical device company.
Okay.
And then after a few years, I just had the calling that I really need to start something of my own. And that's when I registered a company in Texas. And they actually registered within 24 hours.
Wow. So they didn't give you any time to think.
Yeah.
Start now.
You have your PIN number. It's called TIN number, and which is called the PAN card here.
Yeah.
And I went for it, and then I started thinking, okay, how do I get the work?
Oh, okay.
So I started making cold calls. I would actually understand the business, the technology that is required, started establishing connections, going for conferences. And that in itself was 1 year, and then start making.
So were you working and doing this on the side, or you'd given up your job and fully immersed into the business?
So it was at least 3 or 4 months before I quit my job that I decided that I want to go ahead and establish my business. So it was 3 or 4 months I gave it, and then about a year I was looking for work. But I was definitely very patiently waiting, because I knew that you have to follow certain laws. There are HIPAA laws, the patient laws that you have to register yourself. So getting all that documentation in place. So very patiently waiting before I get my first contract. So my first contract was somebody in Pennsylvania, and I went down there. It was a hospital contract. They didn't want to give the work, and
Wow. Okay.
And then I told them that this is what we can do. So and they even mentioned, you're a single person show. How are you going to help us?
Oh, interesting. So, and were you single even in a relationship, or were you in a relationship at that time?
Yeah, I had already met Neerav, my husband, now, and he basically definitely helped me all through. He was more in tech at that time. He was a developer, and then now he's into business. He went to MIT Sloan Business School afterwards. But before that, I was managing it on my own. But he definitely was a strong pillar of support every time, helping me through ups and downs. Every time I wanted to feel, oh, I don't think this is working out. He would be like,
Entrepreneurs have this, stuff from time to time.
Yeah.
Maybe we are not on the right track.
Yeah, maybe we're not on the right track.
Okay.
And plus, he would tell me that you need to be more patient and, just give it time, it'll work out.
So the first company was Advanced Telemed.
It was RadiServe. It was
RadiServe,
RadiServe.
okay.
It was a
So
pure.
tell me more about how did you come up with that idea and what all were you offering there?
So initially, what happened was there were people who were saying that this idea has come up, but it's going to close down in 3 or 4 years. It's a new fad, where doctors see their patients remotely over video conferencing and telemed. So what I did was I contacted facilities and imaging centers and mobile center ultrasounds, and then got the work, got all the pieces together, got doctors and all licensed radiologists, and even dermatologists were working for us, and we started reading it remotely. We would have contracts, so initially I could not afford a lot of lawyer fees, so I would take a template, write the contract, and then send it to them for editing.
And their lawyers would do the rest.
Yeah, their lawyers would do the rest.
Excellent. So, and this required a lot of dependence on technology, and of course, this is hugely trust-based because they have to also agree with your evaluation and interpretation of the tests that were being evaluated. How did that pan out? Did the practice actually expand, and how did that go?
So we always used to make them feel like a team, we would always, as we expanded, we would tell them that, don't worry, we are here to help you out and to make sure that your services, because their end goal is to provide good service to patients. And the patients wanted reports within 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Okay, interesting.
So, we would always tell them that, it is important that we work as a team. We need all the information from you so we can report quickly and then, revert it back to you. And also even for dermat or even for psych for that matter, we had the same situation. We would make sure the client worked with us like a partner, hand in hand, and make sure that it's a personalized service. So we would always be available on the phone, and essentially adaptable to change. Any change that the client went through, we were adaptable to any change that they're going through, and making sure that we're working as a team.
And the backend that supported these establishments was partly in the US, partly in India, or entirely in the US?
So in that times, it was fully in the US. We didn't have anybody in India at that time. What we essentially did was I hired my first person in 2006 called Dawn Jones. And, it was very hard for me to give her control. Because I was like, I used to do just about everything. And then, she's like, don't worry, Alpita, I won't let you down.
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess, delegation is also a skill that must be learned.
Yeah. So basically, instead of having control over everything, trusting other people, building your team, and strengthening from there was eventually the goal of the company.
So tell me about those times when you felt कि नहीं होता. I want to get out of this and get on with something else. And tell me about those low days of yours.
Yeah, there used to be some days, where, the clients would really talk, not in a very, I would say, nice manner. But what we did was always took that as that challenge as an opportunity to strengthen and get better and get better. So we would have like a QA team. We had like our technology team, and then our admin team all together connect on conference calls and tell them that this is what we're facing. So making sure that we involve each team member together and make sure it's transparent on a regular basis is key to the success of the entire company. And it also helps if we keep everyone in the loop, you're having better mental health, I would say, because you're keeping everybody at bay. They're not feeling isolated. They're
I guess communication
heard.
was very important.
Communication,
back
feeling
and forth.
heard. Yeah.
And Neera was, of course, emotional support for you at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then he went to school that time in MIT, and my first was born.
Okay, wow.
While he was at college, and then we expanded, but in 2012 we decided to sell the company. There was one of our clients who was in mobile, so he's like, "Why don't we just buy you guys out?" So
Yeah.
it
How
wasn't
did
we were
that feel?
looking,
Yeah.
we were not looking, but he's like, we need this expertise, we need this, we need that. So okay.
So did you work with the client for a while, or was it a clean break when they bought you over?
No, we were working with them for at least 2 years, I think.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah, we were joint commission accredited, so they needed the accreditation sooner. So all of those pieces actually helped them.
Okay. But how did it feel to actually let go of the control? It was like your baby, right? And were you okay with, just giving that to them?
It was hard. It was hard. Actually, it took me about 6 to 7 months to come around that, what I used to, what it made me really busy on a regular basis and would give me a high is suddenly like, it's not there.
Yeah, of course. But that taught you to be a more hands-off entrepreneur. Did that teach you to be?
Yeah, I think so. But the good part was that we were already ready to open another telemedicine company right off, which is Advanced Telemedicine Services, where Neerav was also there full time with us. And
he had finished his
yeah,
MBA
he went
by
to
that time.
Deloitte for consulting, and then he had worked with quite a few clients. So he was working full time in telemedicine with us, and then we expanded more and more. We had VA, the government clients, and the part that
This is
PsychOnline,
the veterans.
the Veterans Affairs, yeah,
Okay.
the Veterans Affairs, and then we had other government
That
contracts.
must have been a big client for you. VA is a large establishment.
Yeah. But each state is separated.
Okay. So you co-founded two companies, Advanced Telemed and PsychOnline, both in the healthcare tech space. So what drew you to these, and what was the opportunity you saw at that point in time that got you started on these two?
So actually, it's 3 companies, not 2. But
Okay.
so I've always felt like the healthcare space is always growing, and it has more opportunities. So in health tech, especially with PsychOnline, what we found is that the reason it was built, these psychiatrists and therapists who were working for us mentioned that they did not have everything fully integrated or everything on one platform, such as payment processing, video conferencing, your insurance billing. Everything wasn't on one platform. So that's where we started building this from scratch, and we started building a small team in India for tech. And even though we had like all these nuances with HIPAA, and we had to build in a certain way, we were able to really build a really nice and successful product.
So do you consider yourself to be a tech person or a people, healthcare, caregiving person? How do you see yourself?
I think I'm more a relationship oriented. I'm very people over everything. I don't see that if you don't have the right relationships or the right if you don't listen to your team, if you don't take the time to actually listen to your team, it's hard to grow.
Excellent.
So like every single day I work with one team member, and I hear them out and journal and see what they had to contribute or what they have to say. So that in itself also brings a sense of integrity, a sense of responsibility on the other person.
Interesting. And they also get seen and heard, and they feel more of a part of the company. Is that also true?
Yeah. They feel much more visible. They feel that okay, I'm able to contribute, so I'm able being my process suggestion has been being implemented.
Okay.
Because everyone comes with different values, different the way they've been brought up. It's very diverse if you go to see.
So a lot of times it happens that you always are not very frank with your boss, or you don't you hold on and you tell them what they want to hear. Did you ever feel people were doing that, or did you feel that they were able to open up, and you gave them that safe space to open up completely?
So our whole company culture has been very, very casual and very open. We've not felt the need to make anybody feel like a hierarchy. It's been very flat all through. So in that sense, if they had an issue, they would quickly DM me, and I would get on a call, or I would talk to them and understand their perspective.
Okay.
It wouldn't be always like 100%, like you said,
Yeah.
where they're being honest with their boss. But you have to see what would make sense from the bigger vision. So you have to see top down and then see on the bigger vision how it would work for everybody else.
And these teams grew up to a size of how many people ultimately
So
in these
currently in
companies?
India, we have about 55.
Okay.
And then in the US, we have 27, 28 people.
Okay.
Plus, we have doctors that work for us, which are about 60, 65. So
Okay.
it's around 155 to 160 people.
Okay. So twice a year you need to sit with the big boss, and how frequently do you sit with each one of them now?
Now I sit with them, not as much, but they know that the doors are always open if there are any
Okay.
questions. But whenever I'm in the US or in the office, I
Okay.
generally tell them, how about we chat? How about we get a cup of tea? So I bring it to them that
So was the progression into health tech a very natural progression? That means, or did you have to push yourself, learn new skills, and move into that area?
So PsychOnline definitely had to learn about these different languages where we
Yeah.
used to write in Java and Angular, PHP,
Okay.
which I wasn't aware of before, even at Advanced Telemedicine Services. So how they're writing the code, how they're making it, so that when you know everything from scratch, you're able to actually explain the client properly. So how to build and then how to write the requirements, what they need, how to make sure it doesn't break while they're using the system. So there were things that didn't work at times, but we would assure the client that we are looking into it, and just being that personalized, telling them that it's going to work out. And
So how actively are you currently involved with those companies, or have you exited in terms of operational work?
So with PsychOnline, we sold it last year. Last September, we sold it. And with Advanced Telemedicine Services, I'm still an advisor, so I go from time to time and help out, work with some clients, because I've built these relationships in the past, and they do still look out. Oh, where's Alpita? How can we work with her? Is it possible? Because they know that I'll get the work done, and
Okay. When they get stuck,
they're
you.
out, reaching out to me.
Wonderful. So tell me about the present avatar. What are you doing, and how has the learning over the years as an entrepreneur shaped what you're doing now?
So as founders, what happens is that we are always into building teams and deep listening. So we don't we that definitely continues, because you have to be deeply listening to your clients. And it's in one of the books that I read, it definitely says 80% of the decisions a CEO makes is through listening.
Interesting.
So that in itself is like very important, to be patiently listening and listening well. So I think that in itself has taken me from a founder to counseling. So I was already doing that when I was an entrepreneur, and now I'm like doing that when I'm counseling clients and parents and children in their journey.
And do you also conduct workshops for a larger number of people, or how you're doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did a transient workshop just this past Tuesday, where folks from different parts of the world who had moved to Mumbai or would move to a different job, their transition, and just to go deeper into their emotional and beliefs, and to understand how it is affecting them on a day-to-day basis.
These are people of Indian origin returning, or
No,
what kind of change?
They're anybody. Like there was this person who lived in, who grew up in Mexico, lived in Senegal, and now is in Mumbai. So.
Oh, interesting. So not only Indians, it could be people of any nationality, but currently in India.
Correct. There was this person who moved from Bangalore, and we were talking to her about the issues she was facing in Bombay.
Yeah, my God, okay.
Yeah, there was a lady who joined us from Noida online, and she's moving with her husband, but she thinks that she's moving from a not so established city to a bigger city, which is much more established. So we were talking to her about her journey, and in addition.
So counseling is a one-on-one kind of a game, right?
Yeah.
And the organizations that you built and led were team based. How is that transition working for you? That, from one to several and now one to one. How does that work for you? Are you able to go deeper? Is it satisfying for you to work with one person only at a time rather than one with many people?
I think so, because when I was working with my team in PsychOnline,
Mm-hmm.
I would see that all these employees that were coming to work, they would actually go through a lot of issues before they came to work, and they would have not as great a life as some of us have. So I think it always built a sense of gratitude, and that gratitude also is helping me, build when I hear people in counseling. So I'm able to help when I do one-on-one, like a lot of listening. So I am able to actually help them, come out from their journeys
Okay.
and help them in their particular thought process. It's more of talk therapy that I do,
Mm-hmm.
and helping them in their journeys all through. So there was this doctor who was going to work fully drunk.
Ah,
So
okay.
I had to I had to help her overcome her emotions before she
Reminder of
remind
her oath.
reminder of her oath.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
that too.
interesting.
And yeah, there was a
Interesting.
dentist who had anger management issues.
Achha.
So she would come back home and she would start throwing things because her patients were late.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it is very easy to think that everyone is normal and they're not having issues, but then the part that is helpful to learn is that to be thankful and be with ourselves from time to time. Be journaling to meditation, give ourselves time. So even as a founder, I always give myself time.
Hmm.
Time to myself, time to play a sport, time to meditate. So I in my counseling world also, I emphasize that it is very important to give yourself that time, that 30
Hmm.
minutes of meditation in the morning, 30 in the afternoon, or rather in the evening,
Hmm.
and just doing something that you really enjoy. It could be art, or it could be sport. So anything that you really enjoy.
Hmm.
So as founders, also, I think we need to consistently do that on a regular basis.
And so you've lived and studied in the US and earned an MBA in healthcare, uh, attended Harvard. How how has that journey of living in one culture but now working in a different cultural environment, how has that shaped your leadership style and your interests and other things?
So my journey in the US was very interesting.
Mm.
I was one of the few people who started my journey on my own.
Yeah, of course, that was great.
And then after that, essentially, when I built the businesses, uh, what Harvard Innovation helped me do is, build ideas, but also strengthen and energize the ability to take risks. So,
Hmm.
I would find myself not taking as many risks as before. So
Okay.
I thought that really helped and also the good part in the US is that, if you do undergrad or grad, you're meeting somebody who has problem solved in Africa, or you're meeting somebody who has been in Canada and then
Hmm.
who's been in South America. So meeting all these different people, and then you're working as a team on an issue, and then you're understanding the perspectives. So I think it brings a lot of different value system put together.
What is that one piece of advice that you would give to founders to keep working on their mental health as well? Because they are under at times a lot of pressure, and what do you think you want to talk to them about?
So I think the most important part, I think, has been like journaling. So I started
Mm.
journaling like in my early 20s, where I would write things like, you don't count the number of times you fall, you count the number of times you won, you
Mm.
stood up. So, I shared that piece of paper with you.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. That is beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So, journaling, I
Mm.
think, is very important. Also, how to journal, because, journaling every day, too much detail is not important.
Mm.
So, as a founder, maybe top three things that is very important throughout the day for you,
Okay.
or top three things at the end of the day that worked for you or learned. So that is also really key. And I also penning it down, like how we pen a client meeting. It is
Yeah.
very important to pen down time for your family, time for your spouse, because as founders we lose track of time, and then we don't give enough time to your spouse. So I think planning your date nights every Saturday night, having a date night, so it keeps it
Keeps it real.
keeps it real. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, outside of work, what do you love to do? Travel, sports, what all? With the family, what do you do?
So recently, as a family, I have a 15-year-old and 11-year-old.
Okay.
So they're going through their teen and
Teens,
preteen.
yeah.
So I love going, for treks with them. We recently went to Goa, and we did a lot of rain treks. So it was fun doing that. We also did a scuba diving course together. So I
Awesome. Yeah.
enjoyed doing scuba diving.
Do they love it as much as you do? Or it's like mom wants to do scuba, so we have to do scuba.
Oh no, as in like last in December we went to Maldives, and my daughter was 10 only then, and she really enjoyed diving and seeing sharks, and
wonderful.
So we're like, okay, we all together can do this course together, and we're hoping that we get finish our certification this October.
Awesome. Do you think that gives you a lot of fuel for tougher work after that, and that kind of brings you back rejuvenated? Or do you keep taking micro vacations? What works for you? Longer vacations and then work for a long period of time? Or
I think 6 to 7 days is good outside your own schedule with family. So we do that 3 or 4 times a year.
okay.
And we enjoy that, that we are getting this quality time together where, we're just watching the ocean together, or we're just, going for a nice dinner.
Excellent. So, Alpita, this is a very important question of the session. What do you think is your biggest strength?
So, as founders, I feel like having resilience and growth is is what we actually are, like the ability to grow every time there's a challenge, grow as a person, overcome that issue, and then go to the next. So I think making challenges more like an opportunity and then helping yourself, I think that is one of the biggest strengths I have.
So what do you do to keep growing and keep learning? Do you read a lot? Do you watch a lot of programs? And how do you keep growing as a person or as a professional?
So there are 2 or 3 things that I do continuously. One is like I try to get involved with some things like associations that I like. For example, I'm enjoying pickleball. So, like if there's an association, then I'll try to see if I can
That's
volunteer.
the new golf, I believe.
That's the new golf.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been playing it continuously for 7-8 months now.
Okay.
So,
wonderful.
And
do you meet a lot of other founders or business owners there that, and you talk about work or?
Yeah, we do. We do actually meet like quite a few founders and business. But in our building, we have like a small group that we have going.
Okay.
And otherwise, there are tournaments and things. So yeah.
So do you see yourself as at the champion of pickleball in Mumbai?
No
such ambitions.
Not such ambitions. I'm fine where I am.
Happy where you are. Okay.
But the other things that I like, to continue growing is reading a lot. It could be just audiobooks. It doesn't necessarily, or listening to other books, podcasts. I really like Mel Robinson's podcast, Mel Robbins' podcast. So then also, just exploring more and more about yourself. So I think
Wonderful.
that's.
No, I think reading has been redefined. Of course, I mean, it's not only through the eyes; you also read through the ears now. And I think I've been very fortunate. Once I discovered so many books available online, and of course on apps, it's just changed my whole world. I mean, I never considered myself to be much of a reader. But now I do multiple books in a month, and I'm multiple podcasts, etc. So I think the opportunity to learn, there's so much opportunity to learn.
It's limitless now. It's just limitless.
But I guess we've kind of have our favorites that you want to learn in this area or this area, that kind of a thing. So do you also have a favorite what you want to keep learning about, or do you want to keep it? Do you keep it very wide?
I keep it a little open because each thing that you do has a I would say a micro learning where it could attract you to that part.
Mm.
So I would say that it is always I'm open to anything. So right now I had recently finished my counseling diploma. So
Okay, wonderful.
yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. So the reason I got into counseling is essentially the doctors, the psychiatrists working for us.
Mm.
They really motivated me, and then also the ability to listen. So they're like, you really need to.
Yeah. No, I thought from the way your journey progressed, you were quite made to for counseling, and I think you would make a very good counselor. So I'm
Thank
going to
you.
set an appointment with you.
Thank you.
So what kind of counseling do you do? Is it a specialization that you have?
So I do parent and children counseling.
Okay.
Mainly, there are a lot of resources out there, but I want to funnel and explain to parents on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
Like when do kids should drink with you, or how should you react to the fact that your son is wearing a sweatshirt on a 92 degrees
Okay. Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
So how they have their abilities to fit in, and in today's day and age, they have so much exposure. Like they have reels, their
Yeah.
parents are seeing something, their peers are seeing something.
Information overload.
Information overload. So I think they're in itself like going through a lot, in themselves.
Tell me, how does for maybe your people who come to you, your clients or your patients, how does AI affect, and do you counsel them on these concerns or these effects or stress that maybe AI has caused them?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I have actually seen a couple of CEOs who were very concerned about the AI, and so it is important to take it as it goes. The change will happen. Change management is very hard. As we learned in my MBA, but also how to accept it in counseling. So how to go about and accept if there is a change, and if there is a total different aspect that the business might build. So I think that in itself is a very important accepting any change that might come through.
Does AI affect your business or counseling? Now, I've known of people who ask questions to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gives them the answer, and they're okay with it. But does that really affect a counselor's business or a counselor's work?
So there are certain professions that will not be replaced. Like there would be counseling, there would be nursing. Some part of the doctors will not be replaced at all.
Correct.
What I think it's definitely going to make the processes simpler. The kids and teens who are using ChatGPT for counseling are actually seeing that it's not working for them. Like in the US, last 2 weeks ago, a 16-year-old suicided.
Okay.
And ChatGPT wrote their suicide note. So
Oh my God.
it was
That's
just
sad.
unfortunate. Yeah.
That's very sad. Okay.
So what happens is that it is actually taking over, but in some ways it's not helping.
Interesting. So coming towards the end of the session, I'm going to ask you and move into the rapid fire section and ask you a few quick questions, and answer them as quickly as you can and as brief as you can. Okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. So my first question is, what is that one business hack that you swear by?
So it's journaling. Okay. Journaling and writing down what is the most important to you.
Wonderful. And you would do that as for daily stuff, or how does that work for you?
It would just be the top 3 things which are important to you, and then if you want to do a little bit deeper, that's possible. If you can write a gratitude note, that would be fantastic.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. So what's that one personal productivity hack that is important to you?
So I think time blocking for recovery is very, very crucial. So like giving yourself that amount of time to write 3 things that are important to you by journaling, or giving gratitude, or giving that self a rest and exercise, that amount of time that makes you happy.
Don't feel guilty about rest.
Don't feel guilty about sleeping well and sleeping on the same time. So that is very crucial for recovery.
Very cool. Excellent. Now, what is that one mindset shift that changed everything for you?
So I think it's basically progress over perfection. So earlier I used to wait for things to happen flawlessly. Now it's, you launch, adapt, and implement. So that's the thing that I believe in.
Learn and do it again.
Learn and do it again.
Okay.
Learn and adapt another way your team member might suggest, or or the world might want.
Wonderful, excellent. And the one book that still inspires you?
So one is Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think that's a wonderful book. It gives you like a step by step how like 1% of change makes a big difference in your life. I think that many people have read, but how to implement it. I think that.
And earlier in our conversation outside of this, you also spoke about consistency over intensity. I think that's something that you also think is very important.
Yeah, like you have to be continuously consistent, like consistent about exercise, consistent about rest.
Different practices. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time, and thank you for coming to Delhi for us.
Yes.
And it's been amazing talking to you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
So that was Alpita Unboxed. From leading technology companies in the US to rerouting herself in India as a certified counselor. Her journey is proof that resilience, empathy, and innovation can coexist. What stood out for me is how Alpita's entrepreneurial path has been defined not just by exits and growth, but by a deep belief in mental well-being and how relationships, whether they are family, colleagues, clients, have been the true anchors in her life. Progress over perfection and people over everything are her mantras. Her love for sports, travel, cross-cultural experience in the US and India continue to inspire the way she shows up as a leader and as a human being. Thank you for being with us.